Welcome to Crafty Chemist Designs. Today I have a great project for you. But first, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that you are alerted every time I drop a new video. On to the project. This video is part of a monthly card making hop hosted by BD Crafts and More. The theme for February is Fun Fold February. For this month's project, I created this beautiful box fan fun fold card. When you take off the belly band, look at that amazing accordion fan that gets displayed. It even has these secret compartments that you could put in candy or other little treats. I put in these little boxes of conversation hearts, but you can put in any other candy that you want. You could even put in something like the little boxes of crayons. And then it can sit right on somebody's desk or on the mantle. You can keep the belly band on it to keep the fan closed, or you can keep it without the belly band and have the fan exposed. Now let's talk about supplies and cutting guide. First, you need some cardstock. Here I used Pretty in Pink. You need 2 pieces that are 4 inches by 11 inches, 1 piece that is 2 3/4 by 5 3/4, and 2 pieces that are 1 inch by 3 inches. For your designer series paper, you need 4 sheets that are 1 3/4 by 3 3/4, and you want the design to be in the portrait orientation. You need 2 pieces that are 3/4 by 3 3/4, again in the portrait orientation. And then you need 2 pieces that are 1 3/4 by 3/4, and this one you want the design to be going in the portrait orientation, but in the 3/4 inch is the portrait side, so it's more long than tall. And then for the basic white cardstock, I did use the basic white thick cardstock since I was making boxes. And you need 2 sheets that are 6 1/2 by 6 1/2, 1 piece that is 6 inches by 3 inches, and 1 piece that is 5 1/2 by 2 1/2. First, you need a piece of 6 1/2 by 6 1/2 inch basic white cardstock, and I scored it at 2 inches, 3 inches, 5 inches, and 6 inches. And then we rotate it 90 degrees, and then we are going to score at 1 inch, 5 inch, and 6 inch. Sorry about the focus issues there. And then we are going to cut it like this. Make sure you have the 1/2 inch side as shown so you can cut on the correct side. So I'm just cutting up right along the score lines to the first scored mark. I'm cutting off that little edge, the 1/2 inch piece there at the edge. And then those pieces that are squared, I am trimming off the corners just so that they will fold into the box more easily and fit really nicely into the box. So I have it done like my template there, and now I'm going to cut on the other side, and this time I'm going to cut all the way up to the second fold line, just cutting straight up along the score marks. On the far left side, I'm going to cut off that whole piece. This big section here, we're going to totally cut that off. Now these 2 pieces that have the squares and then the little 1/2 inch tabs on the end, we're going to cut those tabs at the end. And then on this piece on the side, we're just going to again trim the corners so that it will fit onto the the fold. Now I am just folding along all of my score lines so that I get a nice easy fold so that it will fold up into the box. And I'm using my bone folder by Stampin' Up! To do this. And when you're folding these, make sure that you're keeping them straight so that the box will be nice and square. So I'm just giving them all a nice good fold so that when you tape this all together, it will be very easy to make into a box shape. I am going to use score tape. You really need something strong. So use score tape, use some Stamp & Seal Plus, you can even use some tear and tape or whatever you have. I'm putting some of the score tape right on that 1/2 inch edge, and then I'm folding it along that mark and then folding the back side up to kind of make a tube. You can see how the tube fits. Now you want to pay attention to how you have this oriented, because we want that upper flap to fold inwards, because you want the really outside of the box, the part that's showing, to have that nice finished edge. So what I'm doing here is just trimming the corners off of those little square pieces so that it will fold in really nicely. And so I did end up trimming the corners of the flap on the box lid just so that it will go in nicely. I think I'm going to need to trim just a little bit more off of there. There we go. But you really want it to have a nice tight fit. That's why I was trying not to take off too much of it. And I found the problem was really the inner flap. Okay, now I've got it. I've got it nice and closed, and it's nice and tight so your candy won't fall out. So make sure that you look at where the open side is, because you want the nice clean edge to be the same for the bottom. You don't want the fold to be exposed on the outside, the front of the box. So I'm just putting some score tape in on those little inside flaps and then folding in the back piece. Then I'm going to add some score tape here so I can finish folding in the bottom of the box. Now that we have our boxes, let's decorate them. I am taking one piece of the 1 3/4 by 3 3/4 designer series paper and putting it on the front of the box. And then on the outside edge, we're going to put a piece of the 3/4 inch by 3 3/4 of the designer series paper. And make sure you put it on straight. And then you need another piece of the 1 3/4 by 3 3/4 designer series paper to put on the back. We're not putting anything on the other side because that's where the accordion fold is going to be. And now for the top, we're using the 1 3/4 by 3/4 piece of designer series paper. Okay, now let's do the same for the second box. We're putting on the 1 3/4 by 3 3/4 to the front. And there we go. I'm making sure which side is the finished side. So I'm not putting anything on that inside edge. But on the outside edge, we're going to use the 3/4 by 3 3/4 piece of designer series paper. And for the back, we're using the 1 3/4 by 3 3/4 designer series paper. And now we just need to do the top. And again, that is 3/4 by 1 3/4. So the inside of the edges, we don't put any paper on because we are going to put the accordion fold in. So here we are making the base, and that base, the white was 3 by 6 inches. The petal pink cardstock was 5 3/4 by 2 3/4, and then we have another piece of white that is 5 1/2 by 2 1/2. I am using this Endless Love stamp set, and I'm going to use it to stamp the Happy Valentine's Day, and I'm putting it right along the front edge. Make sure that you leave enough room for the boxes. So I'm inking it up with my red ink there. I think that's Poppy Parade. Happy Valentine's Day. Now let's create the accordion fold. Here I have a piece of cardstock that is 4 inches by 11 inches, and I'm going to score it at 1 inch increments. So at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And you need to do this for 2 different pieces. I'm sorry that there's focusing issues. Now I'm going to take my bone folder and just do an accordion fold along this piece. And so you do like a mountain fold and a valley fold and a mountain fold and a valley fold all along the paper. You want to try and keep it as even as you can so that your boxes will sit evenly on the base. And I am using my bone folder to get nice crisp edges all along as much as I can. Okay, there's one. Now let's do the second one. Now my paper is two-toned, and this is Pretty in Pink. And so I am going to use the darker true side. So you want to, if you're using two-tone paper, keep that in mind. Okay, and again, I'm trying to keep my folds square. Okay, now we've got our two pieces, and what we're going to do is connect them by overlapping one section of the accordion fold. I am using score tape because that is what I had out. And I do want it to be strong in case the people open and close it, pretty often. I don't want it to be very weak. So there we go. I'm going to overlap it, and it looks like one big long piece, one big long accordion fold. Okay, now if you notice, one side has a mountain fold and one side has a valley fold. So I'm going to make them both end in the valley fold. So I'm really just cutting off one piece, one section off of one of the sides. Okay, now we have our accordion fold, and we are going to attach our boxes. On one end, I'm going to put some score tape, and you do want to be using something that is pretty strong here because it's going to be opened and closed several times, so you want to make sure that the accordion fold stays on. Okay, so I'm going to apply it to my card, and I'm trying to make sure I'm using the right side. And I'm applying it to the side of one of the boxes that we left undecorated. Okay, and I'm going to check to make sure I know which is the front, which is the back. Okay, I've got the back facing back. Now I want to attach it so that the front of the other box is facing out. So let's use our score tape to get a good secure attachment to the second box. And this score tape will hold very well. Okay, and again, attach it to the side of the box that is undecorated. These will fit exactly. They're cut to be the exact size of those card boxes. And here's where you want to make sure that your card is sort of squared up. Okay, for our hinges, we are going to take two pieces of the Pretty in Pink that is 1 inch by 3 inch, and I'm going to score it at 1 inch along the 3-inch side. And this is what we're going to use to hold our boxes down onto the card base. So I'm putting this on just to make sure I know where it's going. And so you can see how we're attaching that hinge to the bottom of the box, and then we're going to attach the folded side down to the card base. I'm putting the piece that is 2 inches along the bottom of the box. And then make sure when you do this that you have the flap on the outside edge. Okay, there we go. And that will fit exactly on the bottom of your box base. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, put adhesive along the 2-inch part of that hinge. And then we're going to attach that to the card box. And again, making sure that the small flap is on the outside. And again, you can see it fits perfectly on the bottom of the card. Okay, so now I'm going to attach adhesive to the bottom of the hinge. Make sure that you're attaching it, to the outside part. And we're going to do that on both sides. And again, you want something that's pretty strong here. So use score tape, use tear and tape. Regular adhesive, I don't think is going to do it. Okay, now I'm going to try and put this evenly spaced along the box. And you can maybe see that I did very lightly draw a straight line so that my boxes are straight on my card base. And there we go. When you put the box down, you want to make sure that you're holding it closed. But now you can see how it hinges up. Now underneath, I put this extra little piece so that it covers those 2 little hinges so that it looks like it was meant to be. If you are so inclined, you could take the time to figure out where they're going to be and draw little slits in the white card and attach it, slip that hinge underneath the white base, but I didn't do that. I just put this white piece across so that it looks like it was meant to be. And so there we go. Now let's work on a belly band. You can see that was my sample card there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock that's 1 inch by 12 inches. And I'm just going to wrap it around the box, holding it closed, and try and score it along the edges. I am going to measure to make sure. You can see I think it was 4 3/8. But I didn't use that. I really just kind of went through and took my time and folded each section where I wanted it to be. Because you really want a nice snug fit, but you don't want it to be too snug so that you can't get the belly band on and off. You want it snug enough to hold that accordion in, but not too snug that you can't get it on and off. So you can see I'm taking the time to really make it fit my boxes exactly. And then we are going to attach it together. And when you do this, you are going to want to make the part where you attach it together, the seam, be on the front. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's because we're going to put a decoration over top of that seam. Okay, and when you put these together, make sure that they line up perfectly. There we go. Now you can see how it's holding that belly band, or that it's holding the accordion fan together. I'm going to put one of these hearts from the Endless Love collection on there. So I'm cutting out one of them with Poppy Parade red cardstock. So I got that cute little heart charm. It's going to go right on there. It's the same color as my belly band, but I thought it kind of blended in too much, so I decided to put on this special heart die design in white. It's kind of this open weave heart, so I thought that would be cute on the outside of that. But then I didn't like the charm part of this die, so I'm just cutting that off. And there you have it. There is our box fan card. There it is open. And then here is what it looks like from a top view. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the project. You can purchase any of the products I used in the video at my website, thecraftychemist.stampinup.net. I have a Facebook business page, Crafty Chemist Designs, where I go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. I also have a Facebook VIP group called The Crafty Chemist Presents Stampin' Up, where you can share your artwork and ask questions and have a good time. You can also find me at Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Crafty Chemist Designs. My blog is periodicallycrafty.blogspot.com.